Today we get new numbers. Those numbers rise constantly. Those numbers are tough to take, but those numbers don't have faces. Today, for the first time here on Newsfeed Now, we're going to chat with one of those numbers. It's a popular social media blogger who is now facing challenges in isolation with COVID-19. Before you meet Liz Mace, let's get her full story with our Brent Ramonda.
Life before the coronavirus pandemic was much different for all of us. Liz Mace spent time performing and spending time with her fans. But now things are different, and she's seen what the virus can do firsthand, being one of the many people who have now tested positive for COVID-19.
It was the chills, the low-grade fever, and when I woke up the next morning to go get tested, I had a horrible headache.
Today marks 2 weeks in quarantine, and she's doing much better. But that's not always the case when someone contracts the virus.
You do not know how it's going to affect you personally. My personal case, it was very easy, very light. But I know of other people who I've read about who are my age who have a horrible reaction.
The elderly population has been hit hard by the virus. One of Liz's first thoughts after testing positive was how her mom was doing.
But when I first got the results back, I started crying because, my mother is elderly and I had just seen her think, she's fine.
Liz doesn't know where or how she contracted COVID-19, but now she's sharing her story to encourage others to follow the guidelines to stop the spread.
You don't know if you're carrying it, and you don't know how your friend is going to react or how you're going to react.
Brent Ramonda, News 2.
Brent, thanks so much. Interesting story there from Liz. She now joins us live from Nashville. Liz, first thing, we'll ask a lot of interesting questions. We appreciate you joining us here. When you first got the news that you, in fact, had the coronavirus, what was your response?
My response to finding out that I had coronavirus was I started crying. I know that's kind of like a silly response, but this is what everybody's talking about, and I was the first person that I knew to even get tested, let alone have the virus, and I was very emotional. I was worried about who I had infected. I was worried about my own health. I was worried about my husband's health, and it was very emotional.
I don't doubt that, and I don't think it is a silly response, Liz. I think that's pretty spot on. I mean, it's a terrifying proposition to have what has essentially shut down our globe, our world.
Yeah.
What are the symptoms? I mean, how do you feel, and is this as bad as what we've all been hearing?
So I'm actually officially 2 weeks out from showing symptoms today. And currently I feel just fine. And I actually recovered from the symptoms within like 3 days. But when I first got sick and started showing symptoms, I got the chills really bad. I had a horrible headache, and I had like a low-grade fever and just like body aches, really bad body aches. It felt like I had like run a marathon the day before. But other than that, I had no respiratory symptoms. I had no shortness of breath, no cough, no chest tightness, nothing like that. So that's why it was such a shock to me that, the test came back positive.
Yeah.
Because, at the time, even 2 weeks ago, I felt like no one who was experiencing symptoms that didn't have the respiratory symptoms. So it was definitely a shock. But I am happy to report that in my case, it was extremely mild, and I felt pretty much recovered within a week.
That is good news. I'm interested from you. Isolation, social distancing is so important, and people have been talking about it so much. For someone who is now going through this, we sure hope, Liz, you're on the back side of this virus. What is your stance right now on social distancing and the isolation that has become a vital part of stopping the spread of COVID-19?
Well, my husband will tell you that I am the most passionate about it.
Yeah.
It is so important because, like I said, I was the only person that I knew of that had the virus. And that was scary because I was being cautious, and I was social distancing, but I had no idea that I was carrying the virus. And there was no indication that I would have been carrying it. I wasn't exposed to anybody that I knew of. So that's why it's so important to stay home and social distance and not have, parties and whatever. It's like you genuinely have no idea if you're carrying it. And you have no idea who you're infecting and how that person is going to be affected. And so that's why it's such a big, crucial time to just stay home, because if you do get sick, then you're going to be home and you're not going to be spreading it to anybody else. And that is just the most important thing right now.
Speaking of being at home, how's your husband?
So believe it or not, he is not showing symptoms.
Great.
He has not shown symptoms, in the past 2 weeks. So with isolation, we have direct instruction from the CDC health department that once my isolation ended, his started for 14 days. So he actually is not allowed to leave the house for really any reason for until next Tuesday, just in case he does start showing symptoms. Yeah. So, yeah.
How did you pass the time? I'm interested in that one, because this is not the same social distancing and isolation that me and my kiddos have. I mean, you're locked down. You're closed off from the world.
Yeah. Well, for the first, 5 days, I felt really sick, so it wasn't that hard. Because the CDC actually changed its instructions from 14 days to 7. Yeah. Which is something that a lot of people were actually surprised to hear. So really, it was only 7 days that I really had to be completely isolated, and then after that, I could go for a walk in the neighborhood. But I've been reading some books. I've been watching some TV shows. I feel like like most of America, spending a lot of time online.
Have you written any music?
I haven't.
I think you should write a song about living with COVID or the coronavirus or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I've got, we've all got 30 days, we got the whole month of April, so I'm going to have a whole album by the end of it.
I think so. Liz, thank you so much. We're really happy you joined us. Thank you for spending some time. Best wishes to you. Good follow on Instagram. It is, what's your handle? Stella218, right?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, Liz. Get to feeling better. Stay safe. Stay isolated, first and foremost.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.